Yo, you're tuned in to another edition of the 3% Show, where I'm glad to be a part of doing this, not for the culture, but for the people that I feel deserve their flowers now before they blow up, as they stand on their own 2 feet right now and even more. Again, 3% Show, because I believe people will tell you 97% of their truth, and that's a beautiful thing. But the 3% unspoken holds power in your life. Sometimes it brings you up, brings you down, it makes you go harder. It can completely stop you. So today I am proud to present, because I've been hunting for this young lady. I've been ducking this young lady. I was in the same area, and my homeboy Ray the twin was like, "That's E." But we have Miss Eshe Hale here. And the reason why I truly dig this young lady is because I've seen her around the town growing up. She's from KC, but I never knew her story. You know, you just look at somebody in passing and be like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. That's what's up." So, ladies and gentlemen, please meet the motivated, the gym rat, the fashion nova, the in the party, but you don't know she's there until she make eye contact with, then she's crunk for the Chiefs game. Give it up for Miss E.H. What's up with it?
What's going on? What's going on, CJ? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate this. It's an honor. So hey.
All right. And again, I represent Wyandotte County, and this young lady holds it down from skating land all the way to her parents, all the way to everywhere she be at. You never know already. And shout out to Adrian for Black Environment, formerly known as Mocha Mom Vibe, because that's where I seen her testimony as far as her story. I had to go buy a book. She has her book out, but we're just gonna keep it simple. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'll definitely shout out to Adrian. What you said is called now Black and Vibe, but when I was on, it was called Mocha Mom Vibes.
Right.
So definitely shout out to Adrian. I actually did my first podcast with Adrian. So definitely she showed me a lot of love, and we did like a giveaway, and so shout out and a lot of love to Adrian and what she's trying to do, and for having me on her platform as well. So shout out to you, boo.
Absolutely, man. I watched that and I listened to it, and I was just amazed. Like, you just never know who somebody is until you find out who they are. You take the time or they express themselves. So give me a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from.
Well, as CJ said, I am from Kansas City all the way. I'm a girl from the dot, okay, 913 all day, every day. I've been in Kansas City probably all of my life. I now reside in Houston. I've been here like a little bit over 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Mom of 2 teenagers, that's another conversation in itself. Another conversation in itself, but yeah, born and raised in the dot, 913 all day long.
Already. So I don't think people understand what it means to be in the Midwest, and let alone Kansas, because when I did music, I said we're literally in the middle of the map, and
literally
it's a whole perception of the Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the texture and the rich history of KC, and not only with good areas, but every place has a hood, quote unquote, and it's level. And so depending on what area you grew up, you had a different experience. So what area did you grow up around the city?
Grew up in Wyandotte. Starting from the 50s, I lived in the 30s. I lived what was that, Delavan.
So your car insurance went higher when you went from the 50s to the 30s.
Yeah, of course it did. Of course it did.
I was on 10th and Quindera. I was right by Parkwood Park.
Of course it did. And then eventually, like later on, I ended up being out like in the Piper area. For the kids to have a better education, so to speak.
Negroes. I understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So after a while, before I moved to Houston, I was in the Piper area for about 2 years. So.
Okay. So that's cool. So again, I brought you down. I just happened to see you at Bar 5015 out there. Like, look, I gotta have you on
incognito.
Already. I told you I didn't know it was you until I looked. I'm up here talking to Kimball, and then I'm looking like, oh, okay.
Incognito.
Absolutely. So the reason why I brought you on the show not only is to talk about your book, but after reading the book, after checking you out here and there out, or not even so much your posts, but just seeing the determination that you have, seeing just the woman that you are, it kind of puts things in perspective, like I said about you. So tell us a little bit about your book, the title of the book, just a little intro as far as the reasoning or more, because I don't feel like your book is just your life story. I feel it's many people's story told over, but you don't have enough people that are able to get that story out, that information out, that emotion out, or they may be in that position. So give us a little bit insight about your book. And if you got it, you can hold it up. It's whatever.
Actually, I don't have it in front of me. You got it, CJ?
I had it somewhere because I'm going off the top of the dome, but it will be in the promo. Definitely.
Okay. So, well, my title of my book is it's called Rejection from the Womb, the Birth. And what it's about is it's basically an autobiography, basically of my life. And it was never meant to start out as a book. I think in the Black community, like going to therapy is looked down upon, or saying what you feel or what you feel on the inside or your emotional state is really looked down in the Black community. I'm an 80s baby. So we were just kind of always taught to just kind of hold it in.
Correct.
We really weren't taught how to communicate what we felt or our emotions. We just kind of bottled it all up and we just kind of went on about life as life was. And the book was never supposed to be a book. It just literally started out, you know, in therapy, just kind of just put down what you feel, because sometimes you're not able to tell the people that you need to tell what you need to tell them or would like to tell them, or you don't know if you should, if you know, the repercussions behind it, the retaliation behind it, you just don't know. So it was kind of just down in therapy, it's like kind of write down everything that you feel, everything that you like, whatever it is you feel, you write it down. And I'm a firm believer in God. So in the midst of me writing everything down, God was just like, you need to tell your story. And I'm like, my story? Like, no, this is just my conscious saying, like, it's just your brain talking. This ain't the Holy Spirit talking. This is just my brain talking. This ain't me and God talking. But he's like, no, you know, you need to tell your story. So basically with the first book, it talks about the first 20 years of my life. So, and with anything in life, everything starts at the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes we just don't know how that foundation really forms us. And that takes sitting down, really getting to know you, self-reflection, and healing that causes you to really be able to kind of see your purpose in life and get healing for yourself. Because like I said, the book was never meant to be a book. It was just for my healing purpose for me. And, you know, me and God was, I mean, he had a conversation with me. It was like, no, this is for you, you know, to sell, you know, to share your story. Because I feel like it is not only my story, but I feel like it is a lot of African-American women, teenage girls, and even men that have the same things, but they don't talk about it, or they haven't even identified with it because they haven't sat still long enough to figure it out. Because regardless of what anybody says, healing is a painful process.
Absolutely. When you got to deal with yourself and what's been done to you.
Yep.
I think it's very important what you said, as far as just overall things, dealing with believing in God, but also opening up to be in a position where you can go see therapy, listening to God. That's one thing, because a lot of times me and some friends were talking about God always has the ram in the bush. But in order for it to reveal itself, to give you a blessing and to stop you what you're doing, you have to be going in the right direction.
Agreed.
So, I can only imagine if you didn't listen to God, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I still wouldn't know you. And there's so much information and raw and emotion in your book that is needs to be displayed. Another thing is, when you say therapy, at what point or what got you to the point where you openly said, I'm gonna try it? Was it something that you tried one time and then you stopped? Because I tried one time and I went in there and told half truths and I got half results. So now,
I did. Yeah, I know. I did try it. Actually, more than once. If you remember, there was a certain portion in my book I talked about that I was taking a therapy, and I'm like, as a child, I'm like, why am I here? Like, what is this about? I didn't really understand what therapy was or what they were trying to do, because at the time, I had no clue what was going on with me. I couldn't identify with it. I didn't have a word to put with it. I just didn't know what I felt. I felt something. I just didn't know what it was that I felt. So that failed the first time. Second time I tried, and it was just like, no, I don't want to do this. Third time I was like, talking to your friends and your family is one thing. And don't get me wrong, you need like a support system, but I kind of I need something unbiased. Like, I need you to pinpoint, why I'm on this hamster wheel. Something has to change, because nothing changes if nothing changes.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, like I said, if nothing changes, something I have to do something different to get a different result. I have to, because I want to get off this hamster wheel, but I got to identify, like, what is it? Like, I knew some of my issues, but I didn't know all of them.
Right.
And I had to get to the root of the problem.
The root
of the problem.
The root of it all. Absolutely. I mean, I'm currently actively in therapy. I have my second session with Renisha Freeman, and I feel that I found the right person for me. And the reason why I say that is because I actually felt comfortable with being exposed, being completely exposed about the person I am before I can speak on anybody else.
Yep.
And I feel like with her, I feel like I can take the accountability for what I allowed people to do to me for whatever reasons, and for what I've done to others. So, I think that even your book was I can say your book helped catalyst as far as the way that I'm thinking and going now, even dealing with personal matters, because you can lie to anybody in the world, but you can't lie to yourself. Michael Baisley said that at a conference, and that stuck with me. And when you lie to yourself, that's when you have the most inner demons fighting, because the world sees you as one way and you feel another way. So leading to this book, how did you feel as you finally decided to understand that things were happening and some of the things that you were talking about? Because like you said, you grew up in the 80s, and I like to call it 1980 lies. The simple fact of our parents were not transparent with us, because you have the elders who weren't transparent with them. It just became this unspoken rule of you're to be seen and not heard. I show love this way, but they never said, hey, this is what happened to me to make me self-reflect this upon you. Agreed. This is what happened to me because I'm ashamed of what might have happened. So let me go ahead and tuck this in, live with trauma, or just the separation anxiety and not knowing family. Kind of what happened to make this catalyst of this book be prevalent for the world, for you to be able to even display it?
I really don't know. I just wrote, and that was probably because the book was supposed to come out like in 2019. I think I started talking about this book, 2018, 2019. And it took me to a really dark place for a minute. Because in order for me to express, like, once again, it's a healing for me, but it was really me being honest and then trying to get, my readers to feel exactly what I was, what I was saying or what I felt in the moment. So I had to put myself back in that position, back into that mind frame, back into the feeling or that moment. Like, what did you feel like? Now that you're older and you have your vocabulary is more extensive, you can now identify with it. So what was you feeling? So it took me to a really dark place because I had to unpack, you're saying, from birth. Right. Literally from the hospital. You're unpacking shit from your birth. like literally on up. And I just kind of, I'm being honest. And I feel like if I'm honest with my readers, like they can identify with it, gives them something to, it's relatable. If I'm honest with it, I mean, it's my story. You can't add to it. You can't take away from it. You can't make me feel ashamed for it. It's things that I've gone through. It's things that, that help me grow. So if my story can stop, the next young lady or even the next young man or even a grown woman from feeling what I feel, or to let you know there's a light at the end of the tunnel by telling my own story, then, right. So be it. Because our parents didn't. I disagree a lot with how we were raised. Because, we were taught we can't question adults. And I'll kind of allow me and my kids to have an open door policy because they forgot, like we were growing older, it wasn't we were asking questions to be disrespectful. We were literally asking because we just wanted to know, or we're curious, or why is it like this? Or why is it like that? Or, they forgot us growing up that we didn't have feelings or something. Right. Like we were immune to life and feelings and emotions.
Yeah, we only saw feelings watching the Cosby Show or A Different World. That was our outlet to understand and figure it out if we weren't having these talks in the household. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That was one of the times where I believe, and I use this analogy a lot, like I remember growing up every Thursday night, we were loved up on each other, closest family, leaning on each other, watching those two shows for that hour. Like that was our day. I would almost think almost every Black family in that era, at least that time of day, between the Cosby Show and A Different World, it was peace in the house. Everybody wanted to get together. And, like you said, I think it's very important because growing up, I had family members that I didn't realize was family because adults chose their friends and treated them like family. It took a time to learn, okay, you are my blood. And it's not to say it was a slight for whatever reason. Some were foul and some they just didn't deal, and those come from conditioning. The title of your book, what made you decide to call it that, and what's the reasoning behind it?
I titled it Rejection from the Womb because that is where my pain started. It was literally the womb. And I don't mean the sense in the womb like I could feel anything while I was in there, but at birth I was already rejected from my mother's womb. Life had already rejected me. Well, not the world, but the one person that should have loved me the most, like coming into life, was my mom, and she had rejected me. So you guys, you'll see the picture, the cover of the book. But the whole idea that I was getting is that you have this grown woman crying because her brain is not the brain, or her thoughts are not the thoughts of where her thoughts, where it should be as an adult woman. She's still broken and torn up from birth. So that's why you see the baby as her, almost like her brain or her thought process, and that's where her pain lies. That's where it stems from.
Okay. And dealing with that, I've read the book. I'm not going to give too much into it, but I will dibble and dabble through it. Just tell us a little bit about the upbringing as far as the household at a younger age, when you say rejection from the womb, because I've dealt with things. Me and my father are excellent. I'm actually just like that, man. I'm a David's man. As for me, 1980 lies. Sometimes your parents can't make their own decisions on who to love, who to trust. And it was a situation where my father was basically rejected for the sake of raising me and my sister. And it ended up, he lived across the street from me. Like I was in Rosedale, Belrose Manor in Rosedale. My dad lived in the projects across the street from me, and I can literally see him every day. But in my mind, I still didn't know what a father was. I knew what a coach was. I knew what an uncle was. I watched the Cosby Show to know what a father should be, but because of the living arrangement with his family here and me and my mom and her boyfriend and sister here, I didn't identify that was my dad. And it was kind of weird, but it didn't matter to me. I paid it no mind. So, when when dealing with your book, that's why I'm asking, give us a little bit about the upbringing portion, if you will.
Sure. How I was brought up, I was brought up by my grandmother, so my mother's mom. Loved that lady to the death of me. I was raised in the household with my mom. Like, because at the time my mom had me, I think she was maybe about 16, 17, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I was being raised in a home with my mother still living there that did not deal with me or treat me as her child.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like there was some resentment between like the siblings, because their mother was raising, I wasn't a niece, I was brought up like a little sister, so to speak. And even growing up, I mean, I was protected, I was loved. My grandmother, it was not too much I didn't go without. I remember taking trips in the, the summertime and, Arkansas, we would stop off on the side of the road. And like, I was really a spoiled child.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised really in love, but I just knew that there was something missing. Because of course, as I'm getting older, yes, I'm still seeing my mom. She's still coming around for 4th of July, Thanksgiving, all that.
I wish I could come to them 4th of July parties. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. But she still didn't acknowledge me, not as her child.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up people not really knowing that she even had a daughter.
Right.
And she was fairly popular in the hometown and things like that. But unless you were a part of the family, you didn't know that she had another child, right, or that she had a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I always found myself still trying to reach out, like just something from her. Like, I know who you are. I mean, I was raised up around you. Just something from her. And I think that's a lot of the problems as well. Like I said, everything starts with the foundation. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit.
Absolutely. I know how you roll. Go ahead.
But I found myself as an adult constantly reaching for people that didn't reach back.
Right.
Because I was used to it. Like, I've been reaching for people that didn't reach back. Or I've been loving on people who didn't love me back.
Right. Reciprocity is something that when you're in a position like that, no matter if you're an empath, and it's kind of crazy as you get older and these words that come out and actually mean something. Reciprocity is so big for a child that should really, no matter if they're a great kid or acting out, sometimes they really want that attention from the person they crave it from and yearn it. And That's where it comes into being older. Like, I would tell somebody in my 20s, I went through the maybe she's the one phase, where if I met somebody that was different, that genuinely understood me for me, instantly, this is one God has blessed me with. Right. Let me go ahead and try to focus on this. Even if it was wrong, I learned how to stay too long in certain situations.
Oh yeah. Because we was like, I would think even with that, like, because of those going through things in my childhood, I had my voice taken away from me. I felt like there was no one there to like protect my heart.
Absolutely.
So when I got around men, and then men were promising me all these things, and you this and you that, and I'll never do like it. I'm like, oh, okay, no, so you're gonna love me. Okay, here's my heart, you're gonna protect it. And then they like, and just chuck my shit like they work for, you know what I'm saying? Like, they work for the Yankees. And then I'm like, well, no, wait. Let me go, come here, let me bring my, like, no, here, because you asked for it back. You said you were sorry, here. So it kept me on a hamster wheel of just toxic things, because once again, I'm still hurt and expecting something from the child in me still hadn't healed yet. So I was expecting these things in my adulthood from people that said they would, and you didn't. And it's just like, what the? So it just created a hamster wheel.
Right.
So, and I think, like I said, that's a lot of why I chose to go to therapy, because I'm like, I have to get off this hamster wheel. Right. Something has to change. Like, what is it? Why are you doing this? Why are you this person? Why are you this way? Why do you keep giving? Why you're already empty and not being poured back into?
Absolutely. And then the people that pour into you and you love them to death, but you learn to understand how to love people where they're at. Because
Absolutely.
what you give, sometimes you may not receive it in the manner or with that same that you give when they give it to you, like, for real? Like, do
That's
you want to
it.
give it to me, or are you just going through the motions?
Like, what we doing?
Yeah,
What are we doing here? So yeah, and I don't believe in I just think people aren't they're afraid to be honest about what they want, where they are in their life. Like, I
mhm.
don't believe in taking people's choice from them. Be
That's
honest with people about what you want, what you own, like, because life is hard enough.
right.
And you telling me at our age, so I'll be 40 this year, so late 30s, early 40s, even people in their 50s, you still telling me you can't tell people what it is that you want or
Absolutely.
what you want, because you don't know what people have really gone through. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And even, in relationships, you can still explain it and people still do the same thing.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
didn't I just explain to you what I went through and you go, oh,
Absolutely. I
okay.
mean, I've been on both sides. I've been a giver and receiver on that. And, by any means necessary, I'm not perfect, but I still try to live up to some of my quotes. Like I said, when you meet somebody, that's your opportunity to be the best of the best of the worst of the worst. But then I always reverse it and say it's the best of the best of the worst of the worst, but it always comes down to what you allow a person to be in your life. And that's where that feeling and emotion comes, as far as the accountability of picking up that hard, dusting it off. Here you go. You said you wanted it. Here I am.
Right.
So I definitely can dig that and understand that. And that goes for friends, family, and loved ones.
Across the
Um,
board. Yeah, there's no, everything that I say, even I talk about in my book, it's not just about uh, a man and a woman, relationship. This is about, like you said, friends, family. It don't matter. All that's across the board, because before I ever got to a man, I'd already kept trying to give my heart to say, here, like, I'm here, hello,
right. You try
you
to
know.
keep it around the safe people where you should have felt safe, and you wanted people to
Exactly,
understand
exactly. And then it
that
was
you're
just
cranked up.
like, nah, well, yeah, I kind of want, no, I don't really want it right now.
Right.
I'm sorry, what? But no, here, like, but I like,
For
love
real.
me back. Love
Absolutely.
me back.
Absolutely.
So yeah, like, and it even got harder. And just a little tidbit, my brother passed this
Really.
past August.
Sorry to
Um,
hear that.
Don Allen, rest in peace.
That was the one in the book, right?
He is in the book, yes.
Okay.
All that had to then come full. When I say full circle, I was just sitting here like, oh wow, because part one of my book talks about even being rejected from my father's side.
And that was okay. Yeah.
So then to go, and then I'm sitting here, I don't know how to feel. Like,
Hmm.
eh, that was a toughie. That was a toughie, because here I am surrounding myself with people that basically said fuck me my whole life.
Hmm.
How do I go and sit and you hug on me? And I'm like, I didn't know
Receive.
how to feel about it. So the book had dropped, like, literally like a couple of weeks after he died.
Oh wow.
So that kind of like shook, like, wow.
Yeah.
It kind of shook me a little bit, because it was like I was watching like my life almost come like full circle almost.
Hmm.
So
I'm very sorry to hear about that, first and foremost, because some of the things that you spoke on in your book I identify with. Like I said, I love my father to death. And it's six of us on the Davis side. I grew up with my sister, and her family are the Horns and Bilberries. So my last name is Horn. So,
mm,
their family. But once my sophomore year in high school, my junior year, my dad introduced me and was like, you have sisters and brothers. And that's so crazy. The one sister that I remember, Andrea, I remember her growing up. But the other five, I had no clue. And she showed me a picture. I was at Washington in school with one of my sisters, and Angel's family owned Haskell's on Quindaro. And then my sister Latanya played at Washington High School 2 years before I got there. Was an All-American in Southwest Missouri State. And my brother dated my girlfriend at the time's best friend. And I didn't even know I had a brother. So it's kind of funny how you can see life repeat itself and how God replenishes relationships and situations to see that ram in the bush.
Yep.
You're going to do what you need to do in order for you to get the blessing that you've been asking for.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a hard, thorny way to get there.
Oh,
Forgiveness of yourself and others and how
yes.
to move forward.
Yes.
So definitely.
In this, it did teach me a lot about forgiveness. I was always a forgiving person.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, that's just me. Like, I don't want to hold a grudge. If I say I fool with you, and that's just me across the board.
Right.
But it taught me to learn the whole story.
I'm sorry, I'm over here sound like Willow on Red Tap. But that's real. I mean, that's real spill. You gotta know.
You gotta learn the whole story. Because and don't get me wrong, I feel as parents, we do try to shelter our kids from feel like things they shouldn't know, and you too young and this and that. But I think at a certain age, you should have a certain talk with your child about you and your life.
Absolutely.
Because it took me to really, in order to forgive my mom, it took me to sit down and know her story.
Mm-hmm.
So granted, all the damage has already been done. Like, all the damage was already done.
The effect has already been out there.
Yeah,
but
that's already out there.
Because it's life, cause and effect.
Yep, that already happened. But I was able to forgive her because she gave me what she could.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I say about my mom. I can't judge you for who you were then. I just want you to be happy now and be authentically yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I live by this because I had to teach, like, how I'm gonna say this. Take your time. I began to be a reflection of my mother with my own children. Because it wasn't healed, it wasn't talked about. I just it was just history was repeating itself all over again.
Right.
Now, to me, it felt different. Like, what? I love my kids. I take care of my kids, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, they're physically here with me. I financially take care of them, but emotionally checked out. What does this as a mother, don't get me wrong, I saw it from my grandma, but I didn't see it from my mom. So I had to check my own self when my daughter was younger, because I couldn't have history repeating itself. It stopped for me. So even after my daughter got to a certain age, me and her had to sit down and have a conversation as far as how I was in the first, few years of her life, growing up, and the things that I've gone through and so on and so forth. So now she knows, it's not me. It's not that, and I had to work on being a better me so I can be a better mother for her. So history doesn't repeat itself. And I think a lot of times we as women, people as men, people in general, in order for it not to be passed down to the next generation, the buck has to stop here. It has to stop with you, because the shit that happened in your past, it wasn't right. It didn't feel good, whatever it was. You have to be able to sit down and identify with what's going on with you, so you don't pass that on to your kids.
Absolutely. That's a fact. And I think it comes down to character, because you can go through life just doing the same old two-step. But, one of the hardest things for me, not growing up with a father, seeing things in my household, resenting some family members at first, until I took the time to kind of pay attention to them, because I have a memory like an elephant, except for things in school. Anything else, I got it. Don't worry about it.
At school, I don't remember nothing about that, but everything else, I got that.
But it was just that I had to pay attention to my surroundings and understanding. So what was amazing for me is, like you said, I understood what wasn't being said. I acknowledged it and I encouraged, because I wanted to know the correct things. But it truly comes down to people being open with themselves and wanting to deal with that. And that's the hard part, because just like with me, I have people that want to give me a standing ovation, tell me how great I should be or can be XYZ, but until I realize it and understand that it's a hard thing. So dealing with the greatness, like you said, sometimes when you deal with the dark places, you have to be ready to deal with that, because it takes you right back to that feeling, that emotion, that anxiety. You know, since we live in a civilized world of emotions, we have anxiety and more things. And I just commend you on being able to speak your part, your truth, because it's needed. Because like I used to tell people, um, I've been in abusive situations. I've been in situations that weren't safe for a young boy around, a man. You know what I'm saying? I'm a survivor of a lot of different things. And for me, it's nothing that I think I would be ashamed of. I don't have kids. However, I want people to genuinely pay attention. Everybody around you ain't for you. Friends, family, or loved ones. And I just commend you, because another thing, not to jump ship, but I commend you about being around and having, friends, girlfriends to hang out with, because in your story, you went through a situation where I call it Ashley the Classy. I was the worst out of my crew. Kendall, Bruce Brown, everybody had on J's. I had on Jordashes. I was always just that person that kept to myself. But when you find decent friends, that can be sometimes outside of your home, that can be your greatest triumph, or that can be your biggest heartbreak when they flip on you.
Yep.
I commend you for being out there. And I really enjoyed just the way you were talking about your friendships as you got older and started developing more into high school and more. Tell us about high school life for you, because you seem like a very artistic person, and you seem pretty dope. Like you could have been into art or theater, because some quiet people are like that. But tell me about how high school was in development as a young woman, leaving from a sheltered place of wanting to have love, getting thrown into, okay, this is almost before you're grown.
Sheesh. High school it was intimidating, because I became very good at masking what I felt. You was never gonna see me envious, jealous, no any of that. I masked it very well, and it was just because, like, I had a younger brother who stayed in, at that time, Tommy and Nautica and Eastlands and this and that. But my grandmother couldn't afford that for me. Not that I dressed at a Walmart, but she wasn't buying all that stuff for me. So of course, me being, a stallion and all, being at Sligo, this is a fashion.
I told you it's a fashion show if you ever seen it.
Fashion maker, right? That's a fashion maker right there. So it was very intimidating to see, like, all these girls. Like, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how I fit in just yet. I wasn't saying that I was quiet, but I could get along with anybody. If you had an issue with me, I don't know why you would. You, because I can get along with anybody. I don't have a problem with nobody. So it was just different, just experiencing different attitudes. Of course, I came to a point in time I wasn't fully developed. I was developed highlier in other places than others, and I'm looking at these teenagers and all these girls around me that's fully like women. I'm like, how they dressed, and heels and makeup. And I didn't have no one around me to really teach me any of that. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have any older siblings. I was literally raised by my grandma. So what do I know about any of this other than watching y'all or, my friends? So it just was just kind of like, I still don't know where I fit yet. I still don't know who I am yet. I still don't, I can skate, I can dance. And, I can be cool with the nerves. I really wasn't into making fun of people. I could kick it with the band people. I could kick it with the, the dope boys. I could kick it with, I was just like, so it was just kind of intimidating because it was still trying to find my place I don't know who I am yet. Like, where do I fit? I'm coming from this into this. And then I got the shock of my life at the same time when I was in high school.
You want to elaborate on that, or are you good on it? I mean, this
I elaborate to say that's one of my homeboys who was a D-boy at the time, basically had advised me, Eshe, I don't know if you know this, but I just served your mama. So it was just a difficult time. I think that she had probably been on drugs at that time for a while. But she's not around me like that. I don't live with her, you know what I mean? So that was a big blow to me. And it just I just learned how to bury stuff. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know who to ask or who to talk to about. I just buried everything that I was feeling. I learned how to bury a lot.
Yeah. And I can relate to that because one of my very best friends basically told me the same thing about my favorite uncle, because I love my uncle. He didn't have everything, but he at least took the time with me, and it's that little thing. It's intention behind what you do and the time you spend with somebody. That's what does it for me. And he said, shoot, if it ain't me, who else you want to do it? At least I'm going to look out for him while I'm out here. So it was one of those kind of ordeals. It was just a time, the crack era, the transition of things, people going to jail. It was just so much. And I can relate to your story because I believe in high school is when I had my first real relationships. I gave my heart completely to somebody because of the way they made me feel. They didn't mistreat it, but it was just a different feeling because what I didn't feel I was getting, from the people I wanted. What do I do when I'm giving something away to a stranger for the first time? I don't know what these feelings are. I don't care if I'm writing notes in class. I don't care if I'm getting called out of the nurse office, going to skate land. High school for me was a different thing because I played sports and I started my freshman year and I was supposed to be this dude, but I'm feeling like you, like I'm feeling awkward. I'm in high school with these girls with ass and titties and curves and lips, and they paying attention to me, and I'm still like, hey, I'm good. Like, hey, I'm good. I'll see you at the homecoming or whatever. But it was so much emotion for me because I didn't know how I truly felt about life as far as, when I roll with dudes that are the cool, clean cut, dope boys, this and that. There wasn't too many civilized, young cats that wasn't talking about smashing and XYZ. So it was hard for me to figure out, do I want to put out a facade and try to smash everything? Or do I just keep to myself, keep focusing on sports? So
exactly, because even back then, like you said, you got ass, titties, this. Okay, well, I just had boobs at the time. Matter of fact, that's still all I got. You know what I mean? And no, but so.
And I carried that with me, my mother did a great job on grooming me about how to treat women. So I had that part on lock. But as a young man, without my father around, I didn't know what was okay for me to feel. What was my yeses and no's be no's. How I knew how to be a gentleman, but I didn't know how to assert myself as a young man into relationships or even dealing with, women at the time. So it was weird for me.
Yeah, it was weird. Even with I didn't really get to have the sex talk, essentially, other than my grandma saying, don't do it before marriage.
Don't bring no babies home. That was my thing. You're going to
you're not supposed to have sex before marriage, and that's just that. And I'm like, okay, but I knew just from my friends, like, I don't know, you a hoe if you do this, that, and the other. Or I would have homeboys that, nah, you don't do this because of blah, 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 blah. Right. So a lot of things that I learned, it didn't come from at home. It came from my friends and, being around a lot of males. I had a lot of male homeboys that would tell me like, nah, you can't do this, or you don't do that. And, right. So on and so forth. And a lot of men in high school didn't even pay attention to me. So imagine if you've gone through life being ignored and this and that, just kind of like, I guess, normal, so to speak, to make you feel away like, well, why are you looking at her and not looking at me?
Right. Until that one person looks at you and you're like, what?
You're looking at me.
And then
oh my God. Here you go.
Here you go. I'll go wherever you go.
Here you go. And then that just puts you on another hamster wheel, because it's like I said, you're just on a hamster wheel.
Right.
So it causes you to stay in situations you don't need to stay in, deal with stuff you don't need to deal with. And I think I don't know how many healthy relationships I've seen.
Right. That part.
Throughout life, even in high school, even right now.
Right.
How many healthy relationships that I've seen, and it was like, oh, no, you're supposed to go through the mud with somebody and this and that in order to show you down for them. You gotta, they gotta drag you through the mud, or y'all gotta go through the cheating and
ride or die.
Yeah, ride or die. I don't like the term. I mean, you can be a ride or die, but you just ride or die for those that ride or die for you.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm going to cut the part as far as love and affection and relationships, because in her book, I'll tell you, if you want to see a human, and you know how I feel about it, there's too many humans in the world and not enough humane people. And this young lady has bared her soul to the point where I was like, look, if I could rewind time, I would have been her homeboy. Because people that know me know I love on people when they good people. But again, we're here to talk about her book. It is super dope. I don't want to say it's a quick read, because even though I went through it, it's not about the pages, it's the information into it. And it got me thinking and resonating. And like I said, Renisha Freeman is my therapist, and I knew that I needed to get back into it. But it's certain things over the last year that I found out I had triggers. And I knew it when I found myself crying every time I watched A Different World, because in my mind, that was the last time I felt safe in my family without issues, before drugs hit, before I started playing sports and being overwhelmed and dealing with older girls. I always say my life story is like Antoine Fisher. So for me, I just had to have you on here in regards to this. And the other part is, I noticed that you're working out now. Have you always been working out, or is this something that you're learning that releases? What have you learned from the book? Because you have a part 2 coming out, right?
Yes, part 2 is coming out. It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming out.
Okay. And the reason why I'm saying that now, because I want her back on the show. Okay, because I'm going to put the information, her bio, her where you can buy the book, definitely. But since you wrote the book, what have you learned about yourself since being able to put it on display, no matter if it's 1,000 people or one person, just accomplishing that? What has changed internally inside of you? Do you feel any different?
Actually, I don't. I think, like, people have told me, oh, I'm so proud of you, good job, and it was a good book. And I still think I have a hard time believing, like, you're a published author. Like, okay. Like, I accomplished it, but I still don't feel like it's a big deal. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit.
Have you read your book?
Have I read my book?
Yeah. I just want to make sure.
I lived it.
Yeah, I know you lived it, but I don't know if you read what you wrote and how transparent you were. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely read it. I just
have the kids read it?
No, the kids have not read it. I don't know, because like I said, we already sat down and had a discussion, but as far as that in depth, I don't know if they're ready for that in depth of a conversation yet.
Okay, well, that's what I was talking about, not the youngest, so I can understand.
My oldest, no, she hasn't. I don't know if she's ready for that yet.
Right.
She knows a little bit about a little bit, and I've explained to her, but as far as an in-depth thing, but now that she's getting older, she's experiencing some of the very same things that I experienced growing up, because I've always been small all my life. So I'm trying to instill in her self-esteem and things like that. So things that weren't instilled in me when I was younger. I'm trying to now instill in her to know, like, no, you this and you that, and accepting you, accepting who you are in your body, and
Absolutely.
get what you see on social media, because most of that is fake and bought.
It took 32 tries to get that one picture that they do, especially when they do a video and all of a sudden it's a delay. And then they start. I'm like, oh, okay, this ain't natural. It's okay. You can put on.
Exactly. Through the book, I learned that, because I think a lot of us, we use like alcohol, drugs, and things like that as an outlet or a numbing, something to numb us so we don't feel, or to calm down.
Or that's what we're taught to use instead of therapy.
Yes.
That's our go-to. That's what we've seen done.
Yes. And not to mention, we don't know nothing about going to the gym other than to play ball, or when we were playing sports. No one really talked to us really about health and things like that. And you watch our grandparents get older, but that's because they weren't mobile. They weren't doing anything.
Right.
And I found me going to the gym. I've never gone to the gym, ever, never.
I can't tell because you be working it out. Shout out to Mike Pearl, because before I moved here, I knew a change in my life happened, because I went to the gym. I worked 2 jobs. I went to the gym twice a day. But when I get in that gym, I know that something is brewing in me, and I've never been a gym person like that. When I stopped playing ball, I was done. But all of a sudden, when I hit that gym, it's different.
Yeah, and that's a lot. I did try. I had a personal trainer, Lizelle Evans. Shout out to him. I think I can't remember what his. I think his Father Son Fit. He's on Instagram as well. He was my first original personal trainer. He was really good, but after a while, I was just like, whatever. So now I do it for one, because I am getting up in age and working from home all the time. I'm not as mobile. And then I feel like when I'm going through my moments, or I'm getting stressed out about something, when I go to the gym, I know some people use that as fuel, but I go there to not think about it. Right. And by the time I then came out and I'm sore and I'm sweating, I feel so much better. I'm lighter. It's just, it gives me energy. It feels good. Honestly. I had a personal trainer down here. Shout out to Mr. Flow Fit. He's on Instagram as well.
I see how hard you work, and I ain't going to him. I ain't going.
I'll be telling. Sometimes I've had to tell him a few times, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm done. But no, he's a really good trainer, and sometimes you just need to don't do it. When you start doing stuff, do it for you, because I feel like when you truly want to do it for you, that's when you stick with it. Any change, any accomplishment, anything, you do it because it's something that you need or something that you want. You're not doing it for the sake of anyone else, to satisfy anyone else. This is something that you want and need for you. So yeah, I probably got back in the gym maybe November. At the end, November in the last year is when I got in there, and yeah, I love it. I love it.
I feel you. And I'm getting to that point again, because I'm the type of person where I would destroy myself first. Mind, body, soul, emotionally, physically, I'll gain weight. I won't do nothing. But once it clicks, and like you say, you have to do it for yourself. When that transition happens, that's when I'm like, how did I get here? Let me go ahead and just keep it going. And I'm to the point where, I'm getting back into my talk with God. Number one, because I've been away from that for 5 years, trying to just to get by. And I know that I'm getting up there. I got glasses last month. I thought I could see everything. But it's just about building and self-reflection. And again, like I said, I truly I'm appreciative of you and your honesty and what you're bringing to the table, not only for the world, but for yourself. I'm glad that you have the ability to deal with yourself, to ask those questions that we weren't able to ask as kids. I appreciate you for going forward to create a new legacy, because I believe some traditional things should stay, and then it's some new things that should transition and stuff should stop. So I appreciate you on that. Shout outs. I know you from the dot. I know you spoke of a young lady and her family who basically, took you in. Is there anybody that you want to give a praise, shout out your praise report to, anything like that?
Oh
Near
man,
or far?
praises report to. There's so many people that, I owe just small things, whether they knew it or not.
Right, right. These are your
Shout out to,
flowers, so this is you.
yeah, like shout out to like my cousin Key and Chris. Like they are my steadfast still cousin sisters, my ride or dies in the mud, without them even till this day.
Right.
Um, I don't know where I would be without. Shout out to my homeboy. Um, don't want to say his name because he's an asshole. I'm just gonna say shout out to Dan, and if Dan ever watches this, Dan will know who he is. Shout out to my boy Dan. Like when I say that's my A1 boy best friend, he gonna keep it 100 with me, whether I like it or not.
Right, right.
Snatch body cast off, kick me in the water, and be like, okay, now swim. Like, dude, my grandmother, like I said, I owe her my life, and like some of the core values that I have, I owe, to her. Shout out to my sissy Shantae, even like just like Adrian and D'Amica and Crystal and my homegirl, sis, we haven't talked in a long time, but love her, Mr. Death, Samaria. My uncle Delano,
Elena?
Delano,
Oh, okay.
you know Delano?
I think I do. You get those names that you hear around that been around for a long time.
Right. My uncle Lano, definitely my baby brother Austin. He's constantly pushed me. Sheesh. Yanni, Adrian, I shouted you out earlier. Even my homeboy Shay Reed, he's always like push your story, you need to do it.
Right.
Kudos and thanks to you too, CJ, for even supporting and actually giving me your opinion. Shout out to Chantrell.
Chantrell, boy, I tell you, boy, you talk about somebody that a flippity flop.
Akawai, like I said, I don't know who Akawasi is or whatever that is. It's actually, when I was going through like the rough draft stages of my book, just me, I actually sent it to a few people just to see, what they thought is.
Yeah.
So he was one of the first people that got like a rough draft of it. Like, well, I was just literally still typing it.
Right.
So shout out to him. So just everybody that's giving me any type of support that is about the book, that is posted about it. I really appreciate it. I didn't know it's not a #1 bestseller. I didn't expect it to be. I still don't know what to expect from it.
You will get more from it, trust me.
I didn't know what to expect from it, but I honestly thank everybody that's sent words of encouragement, just the push that's about the book, posted about the book, reposted the book. Like when I say I'm still waiting on the negative feedback, you know what I mean? Like I get social media, how it comes with it, and
absolutely.
I just get all love right now. And then people, I'm like, really? You liked it? It was a good read. It's still surprising to me. I've never wrote a book before. I wrote some essays in college, but never, so I'm so grateful and honored and humbled that, to be, just to sell one book. I've sold over 50 copies of the book so far. And I'm just waiting to see how this grows and what is going to come from book 2.
Well, we definitely going to work on that because like I said, your book is needed. If any parents are listening or you have nieces, nephews, or whatever, think of this. If you don't have a voice enough to talk to your child or to a loved one, even if it's not your child, sometimes you need to share books. and you need to experience life through what you're not wanting to talk about or experience, whether it's a personal thing for you. But it's not always, sometimes kids always want to know something. Kids are always reaching and have questions. And if they can't speak the words, then you need to find an outlet for them to be able to be taught the words and how to feel. And that's why I said I'm gonna always listen to, even though I think it's trash music out there, I'm always listening to the artists because I want to know what these young people are listening to, as opposed to saying I'm not listening to it. So your book is truly an outlet. And I think it's a reflection of an era that it was a painful era, 1980 lies, and sometimes, like I said, life is about cause and effect. So the people that we are today sometimes has a base from it. Even the people that had a good life, you never know what a good life is until they truly open up about it. So like I said, I brought you in here because I wanted to encourage you. We're going to meet up for the Chiefs. We're going to meet up with both Kansas City groups in Houston. We're going to get them on these books, or at least somebody to go ahead and realize that, hey, this is good information.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Legacy for it. Because like I said, when they had that 13 seconds, boy, it was out of control down here.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it out of control?
But definitely, man, I just appreciate your time. I appreciate you. I want to let you know that you are truly a blessing to people before you even know it, and people that encounter your story. Or, like I said, I don't do this platform for me. I just feel like you should give people, number one, their flowers, people a voice who normally wouldn't have the opportunity to have a voice, no matter how big or small they are in life. But also, you have the opportunity now to just share this with whoever you want to get insight on you. And I think that's very important, because I'm not a podcaster. I can do this portion, but I don't know how to brand myself. That's weird to me. The editing is weird to me. But like you said, you gotta want it for yourself, and you're gonna build, and you're gonna become better and better. And I know people that can make shirts. So if you're looking for some shirt work, I got 3 different people that can do that. So you can ask anybody. I'm a worker in, and I'll work for you as long as you want it. I just want to give you the opportunity. When the second book comes on, please come on the show. I might do some relationship shows or have men and women, because I've seen some of the stuff that you put out into the universe. So I was like, ooh, ooh, she's a savage.
Oh, and I want to get into a lot more of that as well. I'm not gonna say a podcast, but just not something that just discusses the book, but just life in general. Because I be having some stuff to talk about, and I think sometimes people take offense to it because like I'm a female. So, oh my God, you shouldn't talk like that or say stuff like that. And I'm like, why not?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you give me at least 30 minutes one day, if we meet up or even on here, if you ask some of my friends, you will have an entire podcast for free 99 on Spotify and more. I give away the secrets. And then I was mad at myself that it took me 3 years to do it. And I'm like, that's all it took was 15 minutes.
That's it. That's all.
I just added this app, and did this. You show right.
Right. And I'm like you, CJ, like, it's like, so how do I promote myself? How do I promote this? Like, I don't know if you're going to hear, like, because I'm not trying to get on there to, make controversy. And I know like controversy and all that type of stuff sells. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get on there and portray that I'm anything other than Eshe. You know what I mean? I'm not going on there and like, she's, bougie or a bad or I'm not, no, that's not. Yeah. That's not who I am.
I'm about to give you your own keys to your car. You're going to be on different platforms. I'll let you know exactly what I'm talking about, because like I said, whatever we do down here, I feel like in agreement, if we do great things down here, we want to take it back home to the dot.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Stand from the dot to wherever people are, so we can leave legacies and have people genuinely who love the dot. But if you leave, you can always come home and build.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So legacy building is everything. So I'll tell you what, I truly appreciate you coming on the show. You stay on for a while, because I'm about to go ahead and get out of this. This is another episode of the 3% Show. We got Eshe in this joint. You know what I'm saying? H-Town in the joint, but it's always KC.
Always KC. KC to H-Town, baby.
Ruh.